keep hearing sirens and horns outside. So
I know, I probably should.
For me, because I'm right by the hospital.
Oh yeah. I wonder if I
Are you
should.
in New York too, Carmel, or you're in LA?
No, I'm in Washington Heights, so I'm up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not far.
Anyone in LA, or did I just make that up in my head?
I've only been to LA twice, so
Okay.
New York guy.
Yes, New York all the way.
Brooklyn over here.
Hey, I'm
Brooklyn.
from Manhattan.
You're in Manhattan?
I am. I'm born and raised in Manhattan.
How is it over there? Is it
So like things are slowly opening up a little bit. It's pretty quiet in my area, which I like. I don't like too much noise. But it's good so far. I would say that.
Yeah, Greenpoint's pretty quiet right now too in Brooklyn.
Oh, I actually worked in Greenpoint a few years ago. It's cute over there. It's quiet. It's like in the cut.
Yeah, I like how you're like, oh yeah, it's cute over there. It's cute. We won't talk about it. It's cute over there.
It's cute. Yeah. Hi, Lamar. Welcome. You're muted. You're muted. You're still muted. Okay.
How's that?
That's great. How are you?
How's it going? I'm
Good.
good. Good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Good. I was having some tech difficulties, of course, as always, but all good.
It's the Zoom life. It is the Zoom life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, people are starting to come in. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. We're just going to give it a little bit more time for people to start strolling in. I know it's your work. You want to get comfortable and get kind of unwinded, if that's the word. So we will start.
He's also in black. I definitely missed the memo. I'm over it.
Yeah,
so did I, but I only wear black scrubs. So I'm like, I'm not wearing black again. Like, I'm not wearing scrubs for like one time. Like, but I can change.
Black scrubs before. That must be slimming and nice.
Oh, it's my angry scrubs. That's the angry scrub. Like, watch out, I am coming. Okay, that's those.
I'm confused. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in a couple minutes. It's great to have everyone here this afternoon. I see the numbers are starting to crawl up, so we'll just give it like 2 more minutes. Did you guys make your cocktail, your rainbow cocktail? I made mine here. I'm ready to go. Carmel, did you make your cocktail?
No, because as you can imagine, I've been trying to like rush and position myself, and work has been crazy. So
you can live through me.
Afterwards.
Oh, and I meant to play some music, but I guess we are starting in 2 minutes. Let me see. So did anybody do anything special for Pride yesterday?
My boyfriend and I, we just had a picnic. That's about it.
Oh, that's fun, a picnic. It was so hot yesterday, though.
Oh, I went toward the evening around like 5 o'clock. I wanted the sun to go down.
Yeah.
I was doing a content shoot yesterday, so I didn't even know that it was Pride yesterday. Like, I was so busy that by the time I laid down, I was like, oh, wait, damn it. Like, I missed the whole day. But we're going to still celebrate this week. So Pride doesn't end, only on a Sunday, every day.
Right. I heard that they were, they had like a party, like a block party down in the village, well, in New York. We're in New York in front of the Stonewall. But it got like really, really crazy. It was like a big thing. I think somebody got into a fight, but it looked fun before the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have Pride without, because that's usually, we have the beautiful parade. I love that parade every year. I run through the best music, the best costumes, the best dancing. So I guess this year with the quarantine, it's put such a damper on things, especially in New York. Okay, somebody was asking me for the pass.
Well, come down to Florida. They are wide awake and all out and about. So feel free if you want to be out and about, girl. You can come down here.
And that's why the cases are rising down there, because y'all know how to sit still.
Yeah.
Floridians.
Florida is a hot mess. No
I'm
shit.
just visiting. I'm just taking care of the patients. I ain't from this crazy state. Mm-mm.
I feel like every time I look in the media and some like bizarre actions happening, it doesn't surprise me that it says Florida, because every time when I read like what state it's in, it's like, oh, Florida. I'm like, oh, not super surprised. Sometimes I wish I was surprised, but one thing I can say though, Florida keeps it consistent. So
we're not all
Yeah.
crazy, I promise you.
He's like, we're not
This
all-
is my first time. This is my first time being here. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is an introduction
It's
to.
entertaining for sure. I can tell you that. You'll never be bored.
Yeah, that's true. Between the patients and the people alone, I'm like, Lord help me. I'm like, okay.
the headlines, you just like, okay.
I think my first welcome when I came here, it was like, just pray it away was what I saw. I'm like, well, it didn't work for the gay sweetie. Ain't gonna work for Corona either. Let me tell you. I'm gonna tell you now. That ain't gonna be it. But that's okay.
Oh.
Okay, I love it. I love it. All right, so we are going to get started. It's 5 after. I want to welcome everybody. And I think a rainstorm is coming. I'm in New York and it just got so dark. So I'm sorry if my light seems, I'm usually like in good light, but it just got dark in here. Sorry about that, guys. But welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so happy to have everyone here with us this afternoon. This is our Pride panel and celebration of Pride Month. As you can see, we have a fantastic lineup. Look at this panel. Like, this is a great panel. I'm so excited to hear this conversation. I just want to welcome everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Radhiya Barnes, and I'm the president of the New York chapter of the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity and Communications. We're the leading diversity organization for people of color in the communications industry. And we put on events like this. Well, we have actually been forced to put on events like this. We usually do in-person events, panels, fireside chat. It is storming now. I just hear everything. My terrace door just flew open. Okay, I'll take care of that in a minute. We do networking events. In the summer, we usually have beautiful rooftop networking events that I'm so sad that we can't do this year, but we will do that next year. And we do workshops, professional development workshops. So due to COVID, unfortunately, we have had to revamp our programming and change it over to all digital, which has been fine. We have done some great webinars. We have a series called Webinar and Build, where we have been showcasing different professional development webinars. We had a wellness webinar. So we've been doing a lot. So in celebration of Pride, we have this fantastic panel that's gonna happen. And I just wanna welcome everyone and thank you so much for sticking with us and supporting us. And hopefully we will see each other soon. So I'm gonna turn it over to Carmel so he can say a few words.
All right. Thank you so much, Radhiya. Appreciate that. And like Radhiya said, NAMIC is the leading organization for diversity in the media industry. And actually, this is the first time that we've done an event for Pride, because we usually do different cultural events throughout the year. But we, over the years had said, okay, we're going to do something for Pride, and it never happened. So this year, we finally have the space and the opportunity and to do this. So appreciate you guys for joining tonight. But more information about NAMIC, for those who are not members, you can visit our website, namicnewyork.com. There you can find out more of our chapter happenings. You can also check us out on social media, NAMIC_NY, and that's the same with our Twitter and our LinkedIn pages as well. So you can just find out more there. And also big shout out and thank you to our programming and marketing teams. I know they've been really trying to get this event together, and they've done such a phenomenal job on doing that. So appreciate that. Shout out to you guys as well. So with that, I will let you guys take over.
Yes, I'm going to quickly introduce Ty, but I do want to thank our team overall. They helped us to secure these panelists. This was a team effort. Thank you, Chanel, and thank you, Tiara, everyone who helped us secure the panelists. We really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to quickly introduce our moderator, Ty Cole, who is fantastic. He has such a great following. He is an entertainment reporter and content creator. He's a social media marketer, actor, producer from Manhattan, New York, with over 6 years of experience in the entertainment industry. Ty Cole has interviewed over 100 celebrities in the sports, entertainment, fashion, beauty, music, and film industry, combined from having one-of-a-kind interviews with Brian McKnight, Ashanti, Issa Rae, Will Packer, Tokyo Styles, Kim, Selena Johnson, Angie Martinez, Angela Lee, Iman Chopert, Little Rel Hari, SWV, Lonnie Love, Rome, Flynn, Irv Gotti, and many, many more. Wow, listen, you talk to them all. The list goes on. Gracing high-profile red carpets and industry weekends for companies like BET, WBLS, HBO, Hollywood Unlocked, OWN, Universal Pictures, to being well-known for his engaging, thoughtful, and original interview style. Ty Cole has proven that he is here to stay. Yes, yes, Ty. Listen, I knew that you were a celebrity, Ty. Listen. Thank you for moderating. I'm going to turn it over to you. Have a great time. Thank you. I'm just going to close out, but we're in the background.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Ty Cole. I'm an entertainment reporter, and I'm so excited to be here, especially being a part of this amazing panel. Once again, thank you to the marketing team, and thank you to Name for even allowing me to moderate this panel and be amongst these beautiful people that we have today. Now, we're going to get started and introduce our panelists. So we're going to start with Romy, so we can introduce yourself, say a couple of words about who you are and where people can follow you and find you.
Hi, I'm Romy Longvilai. I'm actually the president of Travel Unity, or the board of directors there. I'm also head of communications for a marketing agency called Elemental. We work with different destinations. And you can find me on Instagram at Where's Romy.
Amazing. And we have another beautiful panelist by the name of Tori Cooper.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tori Cooper. My day job is Director of Community Engagement at the Human Rights Campaign, and my night job is stripper at Magic City in Atlanta. And you can find me on Facebook or a poll near you.
Okay. Listen, I'm about to send my dollars to you, baby. Okay. Our next panelist we have here is Lamar Dawson.
Hi, everybody. Lamar Dawson here. Dirty King of Pop, 2 R's, like Christina Aguilera spells it, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. You can find me there. I also work in entertainment as a freelance journalist, too, for Queerty. I've written for Billboard, GQ, Logo, and a few others. And I also work at L'Oreal developing content for their multicultural beauty practice.
Amazing. And I just want to also call about Lamar. It was amazing to see last year when Halle Berry had stopped and the whole media went crazy when it came to her subbing for Black press. So it was great to see you a part of that movement as well.
Great, yeah, thank you.
For sure. And we also have here Serena B. Fignol. I hope I didn't, Fignol, did I pronounce that correctly? I'm sorry.
Fignoli, but it's fine.
Fignoli,
hi, everybody. It's Serena Fignoli. I am a marketing communications project manager with Terrell for the Rooted Initiative. And he's going to talk a little bit more about the initiative and what we're doing throughout this conversation and through his introduction. But we're really excited to be here today. My day job is no longer as of today, but I am a marketing coordinator, and I've been doing that for the past 3 years now here in Florida.
Amazing. And our last panelist to round out the panel will be Terrell Jackson.
Hi everyone, my name is Terrell. So I'm a grad student at NYU, but also the founder of the Rooted Initiative. Serena and I are on the team together. So for that campaign, it's a public health campaign focused on self-care advocacy for Black, brown, sexual, and gender diverse individuals. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just the Rooted Initiative. Thank you.
Amazing. I would just ask if we can just have your mic a little bit higher, as it was a little hard to hear you a little bit. It's okay. And I will also ask for everyone as well as you guys are tuning in, you know, once you are not speaking at the moment, if we can just mute ourselves. That way, just in case any noise happens, we wouldn't want anything to disrupt the panel discussion, disrupt anyone from speaking or sharing their responses.
And then Ty, I'm sorry, I don't think you got JP.
Oh, I apologize. I was looking at the
That's okay.
The flyer here. Yes, and we also have JP here as well. I'm sorry. So sorry.
You're okay. I'm Jeremy, or JP, jpscott.med. I'm a third-year medical student. I'm doing currently my internal medicine rotation down in Florida, so very exciting. I work with other brands, medical brands such as Cherokee and Metalita. I'm going to be starting one of the new shows called The Corner Office with JP Scott, an interview series, and working on the LGBTQ plus podcast with Scrubs magazine.
Oh, I have to tune into that one. That sounds amazing. Now, before we begin our discussion tonight, I would like to begin with a moment of silence for the trans lives who have recently been killed and have yet to receive justice. So if everyone can just mute themselves and take a moment of silence, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much. Now, our first question. First of all, are you guys excited? This is gonna be an amazing panel. Are you guys ready? You guys pumped? We have a lot of great questions here, and I just cannot wait to hear your responses. Woo! Yes, that's what I wanted to hear. And I hope you guys who are watching and tuning in are also following along. And make sure you also are following NAMIC as well on their Instagram channels. It's an amazing, amazing platform, and they definitely are for the culture. So with our first question for our panelists today, and also to note as well, Romy, he will be here, but he just had to dip out early. So unfortunately, we will not have him for the Q&A portion of our discussion tonight, but you can also reach out to Romy on your own, as he did share his handles, and he'll share that in the chat where you guys can reach out and find him. Now, for our first question we have this evening, and we're gonna definitely start in order, but when did you decide to come out or transition, and what role did your background, whether it was racial, cultural, etc., play in that decision? And we will start with Tori.
So again, good evening and welcome. Thank you, Ty, and all of the other guests. So when did I decide to come out or transition? So I decided to transition before I decided to come out. And so I'm 50. I turned 50 on May 21st. So shout out to that. And in 1993, I was working in Manhattan. And back then, we didn't have conversations. There weren't as many avenues to womanhood as there are now. And so I had a good job with good insurance, but I didn't know how to talk to my provider at the time about hormones. So I used to order my hormones from the back of dirty magazines. You go to the store, you buy a dirty magazine, and there were all these 800 numbers on the back. And that's how I got my first stuff. And then a few years later, I finally got up the nerve to talk to my provider. And I was fine just living my life without having a label, without being trans this, because that's really modern terminology, trans woman and identifying as trans. And so that was 27 years ago. That's a long time. And then as I lived my life, I was very fortunate to be accepted in society as a woman prior to me having to identify as a trans woman. And what I realized later on when I moved back to the South, I had to publicly acknowledge my trans identity for political reasons, because I moved to Atlanta and I realized folks who were just like me, who didn't sit on the same privileges that I did, who didn't have an education and gainful employment and a credit score over 700. I realized that a lot of my sisters were being treated like crap simply for who they are. And so I had to come out then and identify as trans and really dedicated my life to ensuring that all of us would have better and more opportunities and easier transitions, at least from a medical standpoint and from a legislative standpoint also.
That was beautifully said. Romy, do you have anything you'd like to share or add to that as well?
No, I think that's great. And I actually live in Atlanta too. I kind of wish we connected when I was living there. But no, I don't have anything else to add. I came out when I was going to college myself just because I had just graduated college, and at that time I felt like I was independent enough away from my parents. So in case they did want to disown me, I was already like in a different city, a different state. And also I want to be true to myself because I was kind of depressed as well in college and in high school and pretty much all my life because I always felt like I was different. And I grew up in Alabama. I didn't have other gay people around me to kind of like look up to or kind of reference aside from a few stereotypical movies. So I never really felt comfortable coming out in Alabama. But when I moved to New York, that's where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gay. I'm proud. Here I am. And thankfully, my parents were okay with it.
Beautiful. And then we can head over to Lamar.
Hi, my coming out story. I was actually 16, and my parents were military, and I think that's where really my background came into play. Obviously, you know, I'm African American, but we didn't grow up very religious. Our parents were like kind of free spirited, let us kind of do what we wanted to do, and but they were very strict, very disciplined. I won't get into the whole story. It's actually really funny. If you have time in the end, I'll say it. But basically, they were really supportive. My mom basically found my diary where I wrote about all my secrets. And she read it, and I came home and I saw she read it, and I was like, oh shit. And anyway, but I was very frank with her, and I told her what was up, and then they were quite supportive, especially my stepdad, who I thought would be the least supportive. He said, it's the year 2002, it's a different generation, like we want the best for you. He told me he had a friend in high school who was gay, who was very depressed, and he said they didn't want that for me. And I was like, then of course the waterworks started coming. I was like, oh my God. It was so much easier than I thought. So I was very fortunate that they were very supportive. And then it was later on in life, around college, that I really started to really understand my identity and really to dive deeper. But family-wise, they were quite supportive.
Amazing. And I know that we have a lot of questions to get through, but would anyone else like to share, you know, possibly their coming out story or transition before we move to the next question?
I mean, I can share. I came out actually later, came out in my mid 20s, mid to late 20s, and not for any reason that I was not the first in my family. My uncle was actually gay, and he died of AIDS before I ever met him. So, and I have a military mother, and you know, even with having that type of, I think, structure, kind of like Lamar did, it was very open. I just know for me, it took a little bit longer in terms of identity-wise accepting that, you know, both being Black identity, you know, at the time being, you know, overweight as a kid, and knowing what that looks like in the queer space, and what the image of what it was out in media at the time, you know, of, you know, toned, and we'll talk about that later probably, you know, toned, fit, six-pack people, you know, and then getting to that point where you're like, okay, I accept who I am. Now I can also accept this role of, you know, and myself of being, you know, a gay man. And kind of like Lamar said too, being older, you know, where I became next of kin for my parents and their power of attorney. So if you had a problem with it, we were going to put you in a home and take all your money. So you're going to get over it real fast if you had a problem. Nobody did, but I'm just saying, when I took care of all of those things, then it was okay, and everybody knew anyway. So it was like, oh, okay, it is what it is.
I went to unmute so you could hear me laughing my butt off real quick, but that was hysterical.
That is hysterical. And I think in kind of what everyone kind of touched on is, it really comes with you first. You know, once you're comfortable with, you know, yourself, and once you recognize, okay, like this is me, and regardless if anyone else agrees with it or not, I agree with what I and who I am as a person. So I think that it definitely starts with you. Now, for the next question I would have for you guys is, how is life different, you know, for the LGBTQIA+ community from when you can remember to present day? And I feel like I definitely want to start with Tori, as you definitely being here and having a lot more experiences than a lot of us here. You know, what was some of those things that you can, you know, call out and what you remember?
So I think one of the very first differences is, and I imagine that some folks, all of you are younger than me, but I would imagine that you all would disagree with me, but it's certainly easier to live in your truth now than many of us of my generation. And then it was easier for us, for folks, my cousins and auntie them, even before me. And so I think that's the very first thing that comes to mind. And then I'd also like to say, the way that folks both identify, segregate, and desegregate themselves is also pretty different. And it's something that I've had to kind of grow into. You know, labels are great because you want to be able to tell the mayonnaise from the horseradish. But because you might not like horseradish or you might be allergic to mayonnaise. But it's important to understand that we live intersectional lives and none of us is just one thing. I'm Black, I'm trans, I live in the South, I'm college educated. But then my sister might be 3 of those things, but not the 4th. And my brother might be all of those things and 6 other things. And so in more recent years, I find folks are embracing all of the different identities certainly more. And that's a good thing. But I also think that in some ways, we're further separating ourselves also. And you know, we're taking away a lot of the unity that existed in community. And we're becoming even smaller pockets of people of similar interests, in my opinion. And I think overall, in many ways, that's doing us a disservice. And so I am encouraged when opportunities like this come up, where we can share ideas and our stories and see more of our similarities. My favorite poem is Maya Angelou talks about how we are more alike, my friend, than we are unalike. And I think that's really, really important.
I love that. Apologies for the noise, if you guys can hear that. It is a terrible thunderstorm that is happening in New York City. So if you hear that little noise, it's from the outside. So apologies on that. But I would love to hear from Serena, just to get your take on, you know, the differences that you've possibly seen beforehand and what you see currently to this day.
So I'm certainly definitely just an ally and outsider, I feel like, and I feel like I'm welcomed into this community very much so. But when I was younger, my uncle, who has now passed due to AIDS, it was like known within the family that he was gay and things like that, and had a partner. His partner would come to, you know, Thanksgiving and things like that and be a part of our family. But it was like never spoken about. Like I was never told like this is his identity, this is what's going on here. Me being a curious child, I put things together and, you know, figured it out on my own. But then up to possibly maybe a year before he passed away, it was just, it started coming out more because of things that were going on in the community and the movement and also his illness and stuff like that. And I feel like this touches on what Tori said, like it's easier to live within your truth nowadays. That was back in the early 90s where it still is not even close to what it is today. And now it's like, I'm just so happy to see the things online and parents accepting their children and standing by their kids and not letting these media and these nasty people online beat them down, because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be accepted and everybody just wants to be who they want to be. And simple as that.
Agreed. I love that. Terrell, do you have any words?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, can you hear me first of all?
It's a little bit, you know, faint.
I don't know what it is. How about now?
It's a little bit better.
Okay, I'll try to yell. How about that? From a personal standpoint, for me, I come from a city where, you know, there wasn't any visibility at all. So growing up, you didn't see any queer people. You sure didn't see any like gay Black people out in the streets. So for me growing up, there was no sense of like who I was. So I kind of had to figure that out mentally. And as you can imagine, as like a developing youth, you can develop ideas or thoughts that are not really in fact or conclusive to who you actually are. So transitioning now to where I am, I've been able to seek community and find community. So with that, there's been a higher sense of engagement that I found personally. But I do think there is still this divide, because even coming back home to even visit, it's like things haven't changed. Even like talking about like queer topics, it's kind of like, I'll put that on the side of the table. We don't discuss that. We had the shrimp, we had the grits, but that goes outside on the porch. So it's a weird kind of kind of feeling, because you feel like you're immersed in a community, but yet and still on the other side, all this is still happening, going on.
Yeah, and I feel like now, especially during today's time, it's more of a conversation. Like it's not swept under the rug, and I feel like that's such a great thing to see, because I think now everyone is so comfortable and is now like, once we're out on the forefront, it's like, okay, like I can be myself. I can say I'm gay, I can say I'm this, and I can say it loud and proud. And I feel like that is such a great stepping for us, moving in that direct direction. I would love to see if anyone else has anything else they would like to share on their experiences with, like, when it comes to remembering how different it was from back then to the present time. If everyone else has anything else they want to share before we move to the next question. Nope. Alrighty, let's move to the next question. So I think everyone can chime in on this one here. So what are some of your favorite highlights of the LGBTQIA+ community, in your opinion, over the past 51 years? Don't jump all at once. But let's start it with Jeremy, because I felt like you definitely had something to say. I saw your facial expression.
No, I'm taking it all in. I think that's the thing that I.
Oh, wait, I think, did we lose Jeremy? 1 second here.
He's still taking it in right now.
Yeah, I think he's still taking it in. His camera was taking it with him. So, well, oh, are you back? Are you okay?
Am I back?
You was back. We thought you wanted to take it in, so you had a spiritual moment. We allowed you to have it where you in with us.
Sorry about that, guys. No, I was just taking, like I said, I was taking it all in, because I think it's great to listen to see how things have transitioned, and how, I mean, from an older generation to a younger generation, and being somewhere in between, how we all try to fit. But for me, I think what was really great, I'll give this example. I think last year, doing Pride, World Pride in New York, was one of those memories, I will say, for me, was just great to be in community around other just queer individuals. I think for me, I've always somewhat struggled, I think, sometimes to feel a part of the queer community. And I know for me, going to World Pride and really just immersing myself in it was one of those moments that I had my friends, I had my ally friends, my queer friends, and it was just one of those moments that I felt in a space where I wasn't also thinking. I wasn't thinking about who's watching me, who's, if I'm grabbing this person, if I do this, someone's judging. It was just a real moment of togetherness and safety. I think that was the other word that I will always say. I felt very safe for one of the first times being, a gay Black individual, and just being able to be in that moment. So I'll say for me, that was one of my favorite and most fond memories of the last 51 years or 50 something years. Yeah.
I love that. Now that's a reason to take a moment in, okay? Romy, do you have anything you would like to share?
Yeah, for me, I would say, from my memory, would be when I was living in Atlanta, I was kind of coming to terms that I was gay, and I was identifying as homosexual. So I, like every good college kid, I got a fake ID, and I went to the gay area of Atlanta, which I can't remember, I think it was called Midtown or something, but there was a club, I think it was called Bulldogs, that I went into, and I was so scared and so nervous, because one, I was like the only Asian kid in there, and then two, I didn't know how I was supposed to act in a gay club. But when I went to Bulldogs, there's a drag queen there, and there were a few other guys there. They were like really, really nice to me, and it wasn't nice to the point where like they were trying to hit on me. It was more they just saw how uncomfortable that I was, and they kind of like treat me like I was like their kid. Like, oh, we know you have a fake ID, but we're gonna take it away because it's obvious you're not 21. You're coming here. So that I felt really included in the community there, because growing up in Alabama, when I was the only Asian kid in Alabama in my school, and then there weren't any other Asian kids that I knew. Other gay or lesbian kids that I knew of that were open. So again, I kept it all to myself. So going to Atlanta, which was a bigger city for me, and then going to a club where, like, again, the only Asian kid, it was just nice to feel welcome there, and no one really judged me other than my outfit. But you know, whatever, fashion mistakes back then, coming from Alabama. But overall, I felt really included, and I would say like last year for World Pride as well, I had a great opportunity to work with Drag Race Thailand. So and we had the winner come in from Thailand as well, and she's also transgender. So for me, I'm Thai. I felt really connected to like my culture, my people, and just hanging out with Anjali was like, oh, I feel good. I feel really like part of the community now, and I fully embraced it. So I would say like, yeah, last year, and then going to my first gay club in Atlanta, that's when I really felt like I'm part of the community, and it's a very welcoming community.
That's amazing. I'm trying to think about my first time in the gay club. Let me check on that and then get to the next person.
Well, hopefully your outfit was better than mine.
I doubt it was, honey. Let's kick it up to Lamar. Let's share your experience. If you have anything you wanted to share.
You know, when I think back over the last, I'm 34, so I think back over my lifetime as a person in this country, on this planet. Growing up military, my parents are very like patriotic. So when the president was speaking, we would like tune in to watch it. And I remember as a really young kid learning about Don't Ask, Don't Tell really early on, before I even knew anything about being gay myself, let alone being in the military, etc. But I knew something bad happened because there was this case going on about a military man who was killed and brought back to the US. And that's kind of when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was implemented. So I think about, that was one of my earliest memories of like something bad being associated with being gay, and like this is a big deal. But then I think moving forward about looking at Obama, like announcing same-sex marriage and saying those words and all those things like that. And I just think how far we've come, because I just grew up in a space watching military and watching media, watching how LGBTQ folks are represented in media. And just to see the president of the United States like saying like gay and gay rights, like that's like, wow, look how far we've come. If you can go back before my lifetime to like Reagan, who didn't even talk about the AIDS crisis at all for like months, it was on the 30th page of the newspaper, to how far we've come today. So those kind of things to me are my earliest memories about just where we are over the last 50 years, even though I'm only like, been a part of it for 34 of them or so, and like out for 16 of them, but it's still a big deal to me to reflect on.
Love that. And it's great to see that pros and the cons, especially for everyone, being within this community, your first instinct is like, okay, it's something negative. Like it's always like a negative thing that you first hear about. And then you're just like, oh, like, and you're thinking about yourself like, damn, like, can I be this? Is this okay? And I think that it's great that we go through these different things to realize like it is okay. And that it's amazing just to see how everyone just, grew, especially within themselves. Does anyone else have anything they would like to share as well before we move to the next question?
I just want to add really quickly also like the increased representation within the government and Congress, and as well as like sports and stuff like that. It's just, these are things that have never been seen before. And I think it's just so amazing because it's just like he said, like seeing Obama become president, it's like when you see yourself or someone that is like you in these positions or in these events or in these spaces, it just makes you feel more included and more accepted, and like I can do these things as well. And I think it's amazing. And it's also pushing the change forward even more, because without these people being in the quote unquote limelight, it's just unheard. It's like being mute pretty much.
That was beautiful. Anyone else want to share before we move to the next question? Alrighty, now Srini, you touched on progression. And I think that, and knowing in laws and things of that nature. And I feel like it was a perfect segue for our next question for the advocates on the panel. Thank you. Doing my job for me. What are some laws and rights that members, for the advocates on the panel, what are some laws and rights that members of the LGBTQIA+ community should be aware of when it comes to discrimination in any form? And we can start with, honestly, anyone who wants to chime in.
So I'll be happy to start. I think we all should be, whether you're LGBTQIA or an ally, I think we all should really be rejoicing about the Supreme Court decision just within the last 2 weeks. How absolutely amazing. Because now all of a sudden we have government acknowledging, first of all, that we are human and worthy of protections. And then, you know, as human beings, and especially as Black people and other people of color, it's important that we understand how important it is for work and gainful employment, how that leads to better life opportunities. And so having some type of legal protection for everybody who's not heterosexual and cisgender, I think is terribly, terribly important. And it is something that we cannot, by any means, allow any governmental system to come back and remove those protections. And the fight isn't over. I have every belief that the current administration is going to attempt to do something really ridiculous before November the 3rd. So be on the lookout. But it is certainly, this is, if we only have 1 month to celebrate it and acknowledge how far we've come. Because again, I'm 50, and these types of things we didn't, in grown folks and decent folks conversations, these weren't even conversations. When I started physically transitioning and changing my clothes, I worked in New York, and it was illegal to ask about my gender identity or any of that stuff. And I remember my manager coming to me, and his comments were simply this. He had made one comment. And he said, look, you got to choose one way or the other because you're getting our customers confused. And that was it. And that was my whole conversation. And even that, he could have faced legal ramifications. But it's important to understand how important this is, because some of you will grow and mature and hit middle age and in my age and even older and never see it any other way. You'll never know how folks felt to be fired simply for being who they are or how they dressed on that particular day. So that's certainly worthy of all of the applause that we can give it right now. And you all will notice, let me also say this, Ty. So I'm sitting in front of a window. It's a 6-foot window. So my appearance is going to change a whole lot. I'm not a shapeshifter or a chameleon. It's just, I love natural light. So I keep looking at myself because it keeps adjusting. So that's what it is, if you all happen to notice.
Listen, you look good in any light, baby, okay? You could shift to the darkness and we'll be here for it. So it's okay. Jeremy, would you like to chime in and have any words on that? Maybe some laws or anything you may feel, or anyone else who knows any kind of laws that we should all be aware of?
Maybe Terrell, you probably better with the laws than me, darling. I can speak on medical stuff.
I was just going to piggyback on what Tori was saying about rejoicing and like having that protection. I do think it's also important for organizations to understand that even though we're protected, it's still important to make sure that we're feeling safe. So a way to do that would be to, like, of course, any leadership that you have to like engage them and educate those people. Because we do have still fire at will employment, which still exist. So even though we're protected by, you know, what's being done in the Supreme Court, there are still things people can actually do to try to, you know, restrict us from getting certain gains. So I do think it's important for organizations to actually have these conversations, have trainings, but also screen their leadership to make sure, hey, you know, we have people who are here, let's make them feel comfortable, but also safe. That way we know, hey, this could be a person that can help elevate your organization. Why are we trying to get rid of them on the basis of our own personal morale?
Beautiful. If anyone else has no other laws to share, I want to just also mention for those who are tuning in, you can also drop your questions in the Q&A box down below. So feel free to drop any questions you guys may have throughout this discussion. I will choose a few of the questions in the Q&A. We have the Q&A session for the last 15 minutes of this discussion, okay? For our next question we have here, but I know, Romy, you have to leave in a few, so I'll kick it off with you, you know, for this question. What legal progression do you hope to see in the future for the LGBTQIA plus community?
The fact that I would hope that it's the fact that we can get fired just for being who we are. I know the Supreme Court kind of ruled against it, but you know, with a new administration coming in or the one after that, things can change. So I would hope that we continue to be protected and not being fireable just because we're gay, lesbian, or however we identify as.
Okay. Lamar, do you have any you want to chime in and say?
Yeah, I do want to say, because I know when you think about same-sex marriage and how that's the law of the land and have you, and the fight did not end when that became the law, although a lot of people seem to think that it is. But I do think about queer folks who want to build families and want to adopt, and the different laws and red tape that's in the place of that, where they can't create loving homes for children who need a place to go to be safe themselves, many of whom are gay. Like that's a big issue that needs to be addressed as well. This isn't so much of a law thing, but I think about an issue that affects our community greatly is homelessness. And I think about, to our point earlier, being gainfully employed and opportunities and to build a great life for yourself. When you're casted out on the street, and it affects so many Black queer youth more than any other, what opportunities are in place for those folks to get shelter, get opportunities, stay in school, stay off drugs, like, you know, all those kind of things that get caught up in the criminal justice system. Because once they get in there, we know it's a wrap. You know what I mean? It's gonna be very, very hard for them to come back on. So it's not so much that there are laws in place keeping that's just muddy. It's practices, it's bias, it's behaviors, it's system that for the fun.
I feel like definitely very well said. And Serena, as an ally, what would you hope to see, for us when it comes to any legal progression, in your opinion?
So my main thing is touching on what Lamar said about adoption and just same-sex parents and things like that. I feel like that's something that's still I feel like it's frowned upon in that, like when people want to adopt, and I feel like it shouldn't matter who or what wants to raise this child, as long as the child is going to have a loving home. Because as he said, there's so many people out here that just don't have the opportunity to have a loving family. And what does it matter if it's a gay couple or a transgender couple? To me, I think that's something that still hasn't been addressed, and it still needs a lot of work within the legal progression, to be honest.
I agree. Now, moving on to our next question we have here. So why is it important for you to continue to break barriers for the LGBTQIA plus community, despite everything that's going on in our country in this election year? And I would love to start off with Jeremy.
I think representation is so important. For me, I come from two professional parents. So my mother is a physician. My father is a retired judge and lawyer. And I always tell people, I said, I knew I could because I saw it every single day, that I belonged in these spaces. And so if anybody ever questioned it, it wasn't a matter of, well, why? It was a matter of, well, why can't I? Because I belong here and I'm a part of this. And it's so important. And we see it every day. I mean, like I tell people, I said, my mere presence in a white coat is a form of activism. I said, when I go into a patient's room and I literally, take a blood pressure, and I probably did that wrong. Being a med student, I probably did that wrong, okay? But my patient, grabs my hand and says, we are proud of you, thank you. There's only one reason why that is. It's because I'm probably the first individual that looks like them, that is taking the time even to just take their blood pressure, let alone explain their procedure, what's going on. When Tori was mentioning just about, back in the day of going in the back of a magazine and feeling, to talk to her primary care physician about that, about, herself, that's my job. I look at it where it is so important for me to advocate for the patient, but also for them to feel empowered to advocate for themselves. And I need to be able to take away that barrier that restricts them from feeling comfortable to talk to me about something that is so, so important, which is their health. You know, a lot of what it comes down to, kind of like what Terrell was saying, comes back to education and making sure education becomes a framework in organizations. And when you are a face and representation is there, it makes it a lot harder for you to ignore. You know, it's a lot harder to ignore being Black and gay and everything that's happening in this country, especially for me. I feel like everything's transcended right now between the health epidemic, racial epidemic, and then now it's, pride. I'm like, Lord, I'm tired. It's just like, pick one thing for me to be right now, and I'm exhausted. But like I said, but every day that I do my normal, the thing that I'm called to do, it is representation, it is breaking down barriers. And I look at it, if it's not for me, it is for the person behind me. You know, there are no footsteps taken by a trailblazer. You know, when you are the first and you are the only, and we still are that. I am still the only in many of the spaces that I operate in, especially in medicine. The conversations are the first people I've ever had. I said, to say, just ask somebody, are they having sexual history with, men, women, or both? Make that a statement. That is a powerful thing. And so putting that into people's minds, that comes with representation. It is so important. So more than ever, I know, at least in my sphere, I know I do what I do, not just for me, but for everybody that looks like me and that has struggled or doesn't feel a part of what they should, which is a system that is for them and really cares about them.
I love that. Now, I do love these responses, you guys. Just want to keep them on we are a little pressed on time a little bit. So I love to kind of keep going with these questions we have here, these beautiful set of questions that we came up with. But for our next person, I think we'd definitely love to hear from is Tori. Do you have anything you would like to add on to this question?
Certainly, a big part of breaking barriers is about what Serena brought to the table earlier about representation, and we heard that echoed. But I also think it's important. I've worked in public health for a number of years, and I describe Black people in public health as having to be multilingual. And it doesn't mean that you have to speak Spanish, but it means that you have to speak Black, and you have to speak white, and you have to speak the Queen's English, and you have to speak North Side of Chicago, and you have to speak Decatur, Georgia, and you have to speak pork and beans, Miami. You have to learn how to speak all of those things, because the folks in public health so I will also tie this in. So the term people of color, that's a term that I find a bit offensive, because people of color describes everybody that's not white. It's a public health term created by white people to talk about everybody else. And so as Black people who work in public health or whatever industry that we're in, you have to be multilingual. You have to be able to speak like the folks who sign your check, but it's also important that you can speak like the folks who are going to be most impacted by your work.
Love that answer. Now, what are some things that we should keep in mind when voting in this year's presidential election when it comes to the LGBTQI plus legislation and issues? And let's start with Romy.
Oh, you always asking the hard questions first. For me, I always look at their history, like how were they fighting for gay rights in the past? And even if they weren't perfectly in the past, I usually let it slide depending on how long ago it was and the progress it made since then. For example, I know Joe Biden is the best candidate. I don't even like him that much either. And he had a lot of a shady history. But just seeing the progression, I'm slightly okay with it. And I think with any candidate, whether it's president or your local politicians, it depends, like, are they for gay rights? What have they done for gay rights? And also, what policies have they been fighting for to make it better for us? So I think those are factors that kind of sway my vote. And again, it's not necessarily what they've done in the past, it's how far have they come from the past? Because everyone can change. I had a different mindset when I was younger as well. And I think you look at all my stuff that I created when I was like a teenager, you'll probably think I was anti-gay. But obviously that was because of my upbringing and the community that I lived in. And then going to Atlanta for college, coming to New York City post-college, my views have definitely changed since then. And I always think people deserve a second chance. Again, depending on how long ago the statements were made or whatever policies they were against or for, how long ago that was. So I think those are all important factors.
Beautiful. Terrell, do you have anything you want to chime in and add?
I would just say, of course, vote. Please don't just let someone else determine your future. Understand that, you know, your voice is literally, you're advocating for yourself. So if you want to see change, it's important for you to actually enact change. We see things are happening in like Kentucky where we're having like maybe one polling station for a whole area. So understand your options to how you can vote too. So if you need to mail in an order vote, do that, but understand like what options are available to you. I would say personally, for you to make a decision, it comes down to what you want to see personally in your life and for, you know, your kids and for your kids' kids, you know, or whoever, your friends, you know. So just make that decision with intention and don't just let someone else tell you who to vote for. Do your research and actually like find out like, well, what's going on, what is this person's like CV or their resume, because you know they're applying for this job, you know, you're the one who's giving them the vote to actually get hired on.
Now, what's one misconception about the LGBTQI plus community that you'd like to see debunked? And let's start with Lamar.
Say that again. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, for sure, no problem. What's one misconception about the LGBTQI plus community that you would like to see debunked?
Debunked. You know, this is where intersectionality comes into play, and that's why I love that we're having this panel right now, is that it goes into race. It's this misconception that Black folks are homophobic and the Black community hates the gay community and these kind of things like that, as if there isn't anti-gay behaviors and things of that nature in other communities, other cultures, religions, etc. So I love that we have a panel here and we're showcasing that, first of all, there's plenty of gay Black people out there, and two, that thinking about our own families, our own upbringing, that it can be an accepting community as well, and that it's not just because you hear one rapper say something homophobic that, see, they're all homophobic, you know, Black community is causing this. So I feel like there needs to be some more understanding around that. And I think it comes into when you take the time and talk about intersectionality a bit more, and that could help clear up some of those misconceptions too.
Starting real quick, I just want to say I have to head out, but again, thank you for having me part of the panel.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Alex, for you guys, if you guys want to make sure you're following Romy and asking other questions, he dropped his Instagram, Where's Romy, within the chat. Thank you so much, Romy, for joining us.
Thank you.
Tori, would you like to also share one misconception about the LGBTQI plus community that you would like to see debunked as well?
So that's a little hard for me, but I'll give it a try. One of the misconceptions is that you all are lazy, because you're not lazy. There are folks my age and older who really believe that younger LGBTQ folks in particular are lazy. But what I make sure to stress to people is that we went through things so that you all would be able to have an easier journey. And easier doesn't always mean lazy. And so our parents, and I mean our earthly parents, but then I also mean our parents in the movement, they went through things so it would be easier for us. So I would love to dispel the myth that you all are lazy. Anybody that can twerk for 3 hours straight is not lazy.
Okay, Jeremy, we're gonna kick it to you with the next question, okay? So how can companies better support the LGBTQIA plus community?
I was like, please don't ask me to go after Tori on that one, because I'm done. I think it goes back to representation, like we talked about. I think putting faces and amplifying Black voices, the Black narrative, imagery, I think that is so important. So I think looking at their campaigns and looking at their structure and seeing, are those that diversity, is it represented, and if not, seeking it.
Perfect. And Terrell, would you like to chime in and add something?
Yeah, just to circle back, it's really about educating, providing more trainings around certain topics. I think one of the things that happens a lot would be like microaggressions that we can make towards communities. And a lot of times we may not be doing it on purpose, but because we're not educated about the history behind like maybe a certain gesture or phrase or word, we could be causing someone to be feeling unsafe or attacked. One thing that I've implemented by working within like public health, would I stop using like cisgendered language. So I stopped saying like, hey guys, or hey girls, I say, hey love, because you never know how someone's going to take that. So little small things that we can do to actually enforce better spaces. You'll be surprised by just saying that, how someone feels more like welcomed by like a small token of that kind of that gesture.
Agreed. Now for our next question, we're going to kick it off with Lamar. So Lamar, what is some advice you can give to your younger self to navigate life and your career?
I would give myself permission to be myself sooner. I think sometimes, yes, there's a lot of homophobic and awful bad people out in the world, but you will be surprised that when you are fully yourself and you're comfortable with yourself, how other people embrace that too. They may not understand everything about you or understand what to say or how to behave around you, but they know you're okay. They know they can be themselves with you as well. I found that when I came out, and especially when I got to around middle college, that I'm like, I'm gay and this is who I am. I'm not uncomfortable, and people felt more comfortable around me. That's when I had more friends. That's why I was more liked, and I felt like opportunities opened up for me because I was truly my authentic self. And I think that confidence in me came through, and then I became just more unapologetic about it. And I didn't really give a shit, you know what I mean? And just that sense of self, that healthy self-esteem, nothing was holding me back from the things that I've eventually have accomplished. And when I talk to young gay people, I always hear this bit of hesitation, like them not giving themselves permission to live freely and waiting for someone to tell them to do so, and they don't have to.
Agreed. Jeremy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh no, I was good. I thought Serena had something to say. Sorry, I was looking at Serena.
Serena, go ahead.
He stays signing people up for a question. My main thing, I just would say to my younger self and to younger folks in general, it's like, don't let anybody tell you who to be. Don't let these people out here drive what you want to be and who you want to be. Like, don't take BS from anybody at all, and just keep spreading love and support. If you don't know something, it's okay to ask a question. I don't have all the answers, but listen, I'm going to sit here and get on this good old Google and figure it out, or I'm going to speak to people within the community that I see doing the work. How can I help? What can I do? What are things that I'm saying that are incorrect? And just educating yourself and being just a support system. Spreading hate didn't make America great. I can tell you that much.
Now that's a slogan I can live by. So let's kick it with Tori. Why do you think the Trans Lives Matter movement had taken off recently?
So the short answer is trans people have gotten sick and tired of being beat up and killed, ignored, erased, fucked over, fucked under, and all kinds of things that go along with that. And again, as trans people, as we continue to navigate society and live in peaceful harmony with everyone else, it's important to understand, it goes back to one of the very first things that came up in our discussion today about intersectionality. I believe and this is how I'm responding to your question, because I know we also are out of time. It is impossible for me to separate my Blackness from my transness. Just because I don't tell you about my trans story doesn't mean that I'm any less trans. And so if I am out there marching and riding and putting my body on the line with Black Lives Matter, then it's important to understand that we have that same kind of spirit and fight and protest in us. When Tony McDade is killed by a police officer, and when Nina Pop and now Brayla, when trans folks are being murdered simply for being who they are. It's important to understand that that Breonna Taylor was killed. She's a perfect victim. She makes a perfect story, but yet her womanness took away from, didn't make her a headline, just like it did George Floyd. So even within larger movements, there's still a patriarchal thing. I use the term a lot, misogynoir. You know, the world still hates Black people, Black women in particular. The world still hates us. And so as a woman of as a Black woman of trans experience, folks still hate me. They hate me whether they realize I'm trans or not. And I cannot, in my mind and in my heart, with my body, I might be able to separate those things, but I can't separate in my mind and my heart, my transness from my Blackness. And so we just got tired of it, and we're continually tired of it. And it's important for every non-trans person to understand that, that we are all in this fight together, and we're stronger when we fight together rather than when we fight against each other. Because, you know, we're all fighting against the same oppressors.
I agree. Now we are going to open up the floor for our attendees who are here, as we are running out of time a little bit, with some Q&A questions for everyone here. One of the questions that I saw, it was from Alana Covington. Alana Covington asks, what can allies do to help support the community? And let's start with Serena, as you are an ally.
So like I said on my last point, it's simply educating yourself and making yourself aware of what's going on in this climate, in this world, period. If you do not know something, you need to figure it out, and you need to ask somebody right away. And in turn, it's also important for you to be a part of the discussion. So me being on this type of panel is me showing my support and how I'm here and I'm staying strong with my sisters and my brothers to the end. We rocking to the end of this. Like, that's simply what it is. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you have someone in your life that is going through a change or that is struggling to accept themselves, you need to be also a person to just listen. I always say it all the time, shut up and listen. Like, if it's simple as that.
Agree. Lamar?
You know, something I think about, this is going to sound really weird, but bear with me for 1 second, is that I think about my success and my well-being in society and how I'm able to move through and accomplish the things that I have despite homophobia and racism, things like that. It's because of access to resources. So the reality is, some people are gonna be homophobic and racist no matter what. You know, no matter how many panels, how many things you do, they're gonna be who they're gonna be. But as long as I have access to great education, great neighborhoods, great healthcare, I can take care of myself and continue to lift myself up, so I don't have to be around them, frankly. You know what I mean? So if you're looking to, this is where intersectionality comes into play as well, because all those things also impact our lives too. It's not just about someone understanding my same-sex attraction and all these different things, but it's about how poverty and violence and health disparities and things like that impact our communities too. So there's so many different ways you can fight for us. Making sure that we are able to have clear access to ways to take care of ourselves, it's critical as well. And it's a way that you can, in a way, slyly be an advocate without having to get into the weeds of homophobia and even racism and, you know, things like that. Those things are all very, very important, but think about how you can make sure certain people have access to the things they need so they can thrive in this life and society, so they can take care of themselves, so they can get out of those situations that they're in.
Here's another question that we have from Adrian Camboris, and I hope that I pronounced your last name correctly, and if not, I apologize.
You got it right. That's my girl.
Okay, thank you. What actions have you taken to facilitate LGBTQ plus interests in our country at large? And what actions can allies take as a Black cis hetero woman? I know how terrible the question may sound, but she wants to ask it anyway, just to make sure that she's asking it correctly. So actions you have taken to facilitate these interests and as an ally. But I think we covered the ally part, so we can just stick with the first question. And let's start with Terrell.
That's a really good question. I think, of course, it starts with understanding like what's available to you. So learning like, what resources are actually like available in your community, and kind of figuring out through conversation like what's lacking and then what needs to be improved. That can be done by, of course, sitting on even like city councils, maybe like town board meetings discussing certain topics that are happening. And you don't have to go into a social service organization to make change. Like if you want to make change on a policy level that's going to be effective and more consistent, it starts with your town hall representatives, people who are literally making decisions about your health and the health of the community around you. And that's really, to me, where you can like have a good start. Of course, educating yourself online, books, different TV shows exist that give you an idea of what's going on, our documentaries, really just taking that effort to actually learn and have that sense of, I want to make a purposeful change.
Tori?
This one is easy for me. The first is own your privilege and then leverage your privilege. And I will say that all the 34 other participants on the call and the 6 of us, so that's 40, 47, 42, however many people, I can't count today. But we all of us that are taking part of this webinar, we hold a certain amount of privilege. And even, we could play the oppression Olympics. But there are a lot of us who own privilege. It's important to understand what your privilege is and how you can leverage it, not to lower yourself or your standard of living or your life, but to actually bring people up. And that I think is the most important part.
This question is from Sheds Alone, or She's. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, I apologize. So Shebs lives in the UK and says the LGBTQIA community is in a good position, but things can get better. The laws are also passed nationally, for example, same-sex marriage. Now, Sheb says, if I'm right in saying, in the States, laws are passed by each state. Can this be a detriment for the community going forward? Now, I saw your head nod, Tori, and everyone's head nodded. Okay, so let's start with Tori. And you can share your answer.
So thank you so much for that question, and I'll make it very brief, as brief as I can. So for folks in other countries, and even some folks in the United States, it's important to understand that laws operate at 3 different levels. There's federal level, there's state level, and then there's local level. Federal law, because of our Constitution, supersedes all of those. And so where there is no federal law, state laws then kick in. And so if you have a law that is something that is against the law in one state, but legal in another state, and there's no federal legislation, then in the case of gay marriage, for the states that ratified an amendment to gay marriage or that approved gay marriage first, a gay couple or same-sex or gender-loving couple could literally be arrested by going to another state for outwardly expressing their marriage because there's still sodomy laws. And that's why it's so important that at the federal level with whomever is sitting in the White House, that we ensure that, as Lamar said, that they have policies and they are advocating and that the court system, that on the books, that there are federal laws that protect LGBTQIA folks from discrimination, because then it takes away that state law. So.
And I also saw Jeremy nod your head quickly as well. So Jeremy, would you like to chime in?
No, Tori says it perfectly. I can listen to Tori all day too. I'm like, between Lamar, Tori, y'all, I'm like, okay, y'all, I'm just getting my own education. I'm like, this med student is writing down notes, y'all. Like, I'm good.
Yes.
Your question here. So it is an anonymous question. So have you ever felt the need to code switch at work, and how can someone feel more supported in their workplace? And let's start with Lamar, as you shook your head. So let's
Mm-mm. You're gonna get all of me at work. You're gonna get all of me at work. You know, I'm gonna be myself fully, completely. I do recognize I may be having a bit of privilege in that regard too, but I do think that you can make a decision. I mentor a lot of college students and even high schoolers. Even people reach out to me on TikTok saying like, you know, they're gay and they love how comfortable I am and whatever. And I'm like, you have to work on yourself and get there first. I don't code switch at work. My Black stuff, my gay stuff, the intersection of both, I am fully, completely myself. People can F off if they have an issue with it, but it's about how you carry yourself and your confidence, and then let that be a ray of light as well. You know what I mean? And let that be the sunshine in the office where everyone else is so boring and so conservative. So to me, the gay card, my Black card, like I pull them out and I am fully myself completely, and I'm a confident and self-assured person because of those things. And I think that it gives me a leg up in the workplace. I leverage it.
And Terrell?
For me, it's a little bit different because I work from a clinical, social work kind of standpoint. So you're not really allowed to express yourself in such a way too often because you don't want to impede on the process of helping someone. So if you have an individual in front of you that is exhibiting signs of not being maybe open to your character, you don't want to push that person away because the goal is to engage them and link them to services, but also keep them consistently linked to that service. So it kind of depends on the person. I personally, from past jobs, like out of clinical, I've never really had to I guess change myself because people already knew. So I never had an option of like hiding anything because I'm pretty I'm slim. I have more of like a feminine presence, so people just kind of assume. And then I wear an earring, so people are just like, "Girl, we know." But you know, it's just one of those things, just owning who you are in a sense, and just like standing by it. You know, and I think it's important to stand by who you are in that character because there is a one snapshot to like who we are as people. We exist on a spectrum of how we present, how we engage, how we are on a personal level. So if you are fine who you are in that one realm, that's fine. You don't have to compare yourself to someone else who's in a different like league or carrying themselves in a different way. Just stay in your own lane.
I love that. We are out of time here, so I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Yes, this was an amazing panel. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. It was a great experience, and I feel as though there was a lot that people learned from this. There's a lot of gems that everyone on the panel definitely dropped. There's some things that I learned that I'm going to take for myself. And I want to just say thank you again for allowing me to be here. And I'm going to kick it right back to Miss Radhiya Barnes, who is going to wrap up this amazing panel that Nimic put together.
Guys, that was fantastic. When I say that was amazing, and I know we wish that we could go on and talk some more, but if you have any closing words, I'll just give everybody an opportunity. We have a couple more minutes where we could kind of spare. Whoever needs to drop off, feel free to do that. But if you have some closing words, if there's something that you want to say that you didn't get a chance to say, or if there's something you are working on, a project or something you'd like to promote, please go ahead and do that. We would love to hear it. I'll start with Jeremy and I'll just go across the line. Jeremy, JP.
Yes, I'll just say thank you so much. I mean, I think it's wonderful to just connect with people outside of my sphere. So I've learned a lot from all of you. So I thank you so much. I think my closing message is to anybody. I think, when you know more, you do more and you do better. And I think when it comes to asking yourself whether you're an ally or anything else, is it important for you to be right or to get it right? And I think that's one of those things that you have to kind of ask yourself as you're going through and navigating all of this. But, it's a learning process. It's a learning curve. So like I always say to my followers on my Instagram, I say, do better today than you did yesterday and the day before. That's the only thing that we can do. And if you're thinking about that, we're going to make those little small steps. But again, thank you guys so much. This has been wonderful. So I very much appreciate it. Very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Terrell?
Yeah, this has been like amazing. I even learned a lot listening to everyone and their thoughts about the different questions that are being asked. Of course, if you want to keep engaging with us, with the Rooted Initiative. I'm going to drop in our links for our Instagram, our Facebook. We would love to have more engagement regarding like your thoughts, your voices, and like creating more collective platforms to express that. I think it's really important for self-care, but also for like understanding yourself on an internal basis, because we can't really help the outside without actually helping ourselves within as well.
That is so important. And guys, I will make sure we have everyone's information. I send a thank you email, and I will have all of your information, your Instagram handles, your email addresses, your websites. I'll have that on there so people can contact you as well. Ty, what's going on with you?
I'm just happy to be here. For me, there are a lot of things that I did not know about the LGBTQI plus community, QIA plus community. And for me, even the little things like what Terrell said, saying, hey guys, you know, that can definitely be offensive to somebody. And for myself, I catch myself sometimes saying that, but not recognizing that, you know, one, not everyone identifies as male. And you have to kind of just think that even for yourself, like if you're in a group of other men and I'm like, oh, hey guys, it's like, well, you know, what about Radhiya? Like that's something that we have to keep in mind and be conscious. I think the conscious little things that I did not recognize, I recognized through this panel. And I was happy to moderate it because it was great to just hear different experiences. Everyone on this panel comes from different walks of life.
Right.
Everyone identifies differently. And for me to understand a little bit more about things I did not know was a treat in itself. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be here, and hopefully we can continue to work more together. So
I feel like we just scratched the surface, and I'm just thinking right now, maybe in early fall, we could do another one because we needed more time for this. As we could see, like the questions were rolling in and everybody had more to say. So this is just the start of the conversation. And I think it's an important conversation to have. So thank you so much. Tori, any final words?
Thank you all for having me. This was wonderful. I'll be the elder, the auntie of the panel. And I would like to say that everybody that you meet and everybody that you encounter doesn't earn to see all of you. They don't earn to get all of you. And I encourage each of you to put your all in the work, but do not give all of you away.
That's a word. That's a word. Thank you. Serena.
Thank you so much, guys. See, I caught myself.
We're learning.
Right there. So that shows that I today learned something that I do just unconsciously. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this beautiful conversation and for all the love and support. And I will continue just to push that out into the world. I'm shocked of how much I learned, and I did not know about the history and about the LGBTQIA plus community. I think I got the acronym right. And I'm just so appreciative to be here, and I'm excited to do it again if you'll have me back.
Oh, definitely. And we were so happy to have you. You were the voice of the allies. And I think that's why it's so important to have, diverse panels made up of so many different people, personalities, jobs, so you can get different perspectives and you can learn from each other. And that's so important. Lamar, what's going on with you?
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to everyone sharing their points of view and their wisdom and their insights. Something I think about, there's one thing to take away from what I've said today is really to figure out how you can help clear the pathways and other aspects of queer lives, thinking back to education and communities, policing, healthcare, all those kind of things impact this community on a greater scale too. Because again, I always say, like, you know what, people might not be okay with sexual orientation and this and that, but like help clear the pathway so these folks can lift themselves and make better lives for themselves. Because those things touch us in different ways. So I always say, like, those are different ways you can be an ally and be a resource to the community and members in it.
Wonderful, wonderful. This has been so good. I really want to thank you on behalf of myself and my team, just for bringing your authentic selves, for keeping it real with us, just for having this great banter. I'm sad it's ending. I could have gone another hour or so. I don't want to hold everybody up. I know we all have lives, but thank you again so much. As I said, I think that we definitely have to continue this conversation. This was really engaging and really important. I wish all of you a great, great summer, and everyone remain safe, be diligent.
I do one last thing, Radhiya. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say thank you to Lamar. And I want to speak to Lamar because of him being a reporter. For me, it's like you're opening up doors for reporters like myself, for me to be myself, to be open, to be a part of things like this. So I wanted to really just say thank you to Lamar. I remember when I discovered him last year when it came to the Halle Berry incident. And I was like, oh my God, like this is something that like, you know, I was working and pushing to do, and I was doing it. And seeing people like Lamar continuously pave the way for younger reporters like myself, and I'm only 24. It's amazing just to see that and to just have someone who is in your support system and just supports you all throughout. So I just want to say that and just say thank you to him.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
That is so sweet. I love that. You are leading the path, Lamar. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Well, everybody, please be safe. Social distance. Listen, this corona is not over, and you know how it's affecting our community. It is hitting us hard. So please, 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 I know it's been long, but wash your hands, social distance, quarantine. Do not go into crowds if you don't have to.
Wear your masks, please. Wear your masks, please.
That's the most important thing. Wear your mask. And when we do that, it helps things to get better a lot quicker. As you can see in New York, we did a really great job, and we are kind of leading the way. So I want everybody across the country, I want us all to remain safe so we can get together finally. It's been so long. I want to see everybody. So you guys have a great night. We will see you soon. If you have any questions, please contact us at namic.newyorkny@gmail.com. Everyone have a great night. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, moderator.
Thanks.
Be safe. Bye.
Everyone.